Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again to the next episode in the series. If you missed any of it, please go back and get caught up to speed. If you're returning, thank you for continuing to join me again on this journey. We left off with a discussion saying that we need to now parse this data that we have locally inside our project. And so I am going to the class or the library that I use most for doing any kind of action like we're going to do, and it's a library called Moshi by Square. So um, let me find out where on earth. Here we go. We need this guy to implement. Very good. And we should have all of that up and running. All right, and then now if we go back to the video here, or sorry, the discussion here, we can kind of see a little bit of an example here. So the idea is that we have our JSON, which we're going to extract from the file that we have in our resource directory. And then we're going to go ahead and create a new Moshi object, and then we can go ahead and basically define an adapter that takes a particular class, which in our case is going to be the attraction, and then you can just very easily call adapter.fromJSON, passing in your string of JSON, properly formatted JSON, and it will return to you what you've actually gone ahead and told it to create. So this class is, or this example is simple in the sense that it's converting one particular object. However, we have the necessity of doing we need to get a list of attraction objects. So here we go. We're going to actually go ahead and do something along this lines where we create a parameterized type, and you pass in basically how you would construct this right here of being a list of cards. You pass in the first class and then the type that this class can understand how to, I guess, kind of like wrap itself around and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this function here, but first we need to know how to actually fetch our raw resource here. So let's say parsing raw resource file Android. Yeah, so you'd have to do like this, yeah, open raw resource, input stream reader. There's a better way to do this in Kotlin. Yeah. Yep, this is the one I was looking for. Kotlin kind of just cuts down on all of this boilerplate code, if you will. So we're going to go ahead and actually create a global list here. So it's going to be public, but it's going to be a val, this is called attractions list. Is going to be a list of attractions by lazy, and we're going to create a function here that says parse attractions, and it's going to return to you an array list of attractions. Great. So this basically means, and the reason that we're kind of doing this in a by lazy fashion is that the first time this object is referenced, it will be created. So we won't run into any kind of like race conditions where if we're doing something here in on create or something like that, and then the fragment loads and we're still parsing, and then our fragment's trying to reference like a list and it's empty, you know, blah, blah, blah. So there are other solutions to this in the future, especially when we start talking about architecture components and the MVVM architecture model that Google's pushing for, but for now we're kind of doing that in a slightly hackier, or not hackier, but slightly more primitive, that's the word I was looking for, way. So we're going to say our text from file is our resources, open our raw resource, which this one was just called Croatia, and then we can use a buffered reader to read all of the text in it, and basically after this line of code runs, this entire file will be injected into this variable here. So we then at this point can get our Moshi reference here, right? We're done with that. I'm not missing anything, am I? Yeah, no. So we just got our Moshi instance there, and then we're going to go back down and we'll just copy this and modify it. Even though it's in Java, hopefully it doesn't freak out. Yeah, so it actually converts it a little bit here to Kotlin for us. So we're going to make sure that we import all the correct information here. So that's about it, right? So we've gone ahead and extracted our resource file into what is going on here? Smart card? Oh, yeah, I don't know what that was. That was just failing to properly import the Java code. Okay, so we fetched the information from our file here. We go ahead and create our Moshi instance. We go ahead and create our type that Moshi can understand, saying that this is going to be a list of attraction objects. We set our JSON adapter whose type is list of type attraction, and we set that by saying moshi.adapter and passing in the type that we defined here. And then we go ahead and actually just try to parse our file basically. So adapter from JSON, text from file. We're going to cast it as an array list because that's what we're returning, and then otherwise if for whatever reason it's null, or you know, this code fails and returns null, we're just going to return an empty list. So seems good. And so now in our home fragment, we're actually going to go ahead and just add this to the base fragment because it's very possible that we're going to want to reference this more than once. So we're going to say attractions, and this is going to be a list of attractions, and we're going to define the get to be activity as main activity dot attractions list, right? So now every time we reference this code here, we're going to actually or every time we reference this variable, we're going to be running this code in its place. So it's kind of just like a little shortcut. This get function is us able to override when we're requesting access to this field. This code runs every time. So if we request it, you know, right at this moment in time right now, and then at some point, you know, over the next 10 seconds, we end up modifying this list, and then, you know, 10 seconds later, we try to reference this field again, we will actually have seen the updates to that list because we've actually kind of refetched the list under the hood, as opposed to just like maintaining one particular the list. So we can just set our attractions here. So I think we're pretty far along. I know that we need I know that we need the uses permission internet for the image loading library to work. And so with that in place, we have our main activity, we have our Moshi, we have our JSON, we have our attractions data, base fragment. We should be good to go here. Let's give it a whirl, see what happens. All right, got a crash. No? No help? Stop. Stop flying. Cannot serialize type attraction. Reflection to reflect unexpected behavior. Please use Kotlin JSON adapter factory from the Moshi Kotlin artifact or use code gen. Interesting. I forgot about that. Add adapter, the Kotlin. Oh, use code gen. Kotlin JSON. So we're just missing a component in this library here. So I was actually importing the wrong one. Previously we didn't have this dash Kotlin in it, but now that we do, and so that is the correct implementation that we need for our Kotlin project, which then gives us access to the Kotlin JSON adapter factory, which is required for the parsing to work out properly. So let's go ahead and take a look at Granite again, and we have a little bit of a parse exception. It says expected begin array but was begin object at path. Right. So let me see if okay, so the error that we had seen before was because originally this file was defined like this, right? Where we're telling the adapter here, man, maybe we'll keep that. We're telling the adapter here that what it should expect is to find a list of attractions. And although at first glance here, you would think, okay, like attractions, and then here's the list of attractions, we're actually not 100% in sync with what we've told it to be. If we were to actually parse the file as is, we would end up having to create another file here that mimics it legitimately instead of intuitively what you would expect. So here you can see that the attractions field inside this object is a list of attractions. And when you think about it that way, this attractions field within this overarching object, the entire thing, has a list of attractions. But what we've told it is it's just a list of attractions, not an object that contains a list of attractions. So there's two ways that we could change this here, right? We can do this, we can just cut this entire thing and paste it. So now the opening signature, the opening information, whatever that it actually sees is an open bracket like that, signifying that this is an array and that inside here it's an array of objects that exist in the format of an attraction. I'm actually going to leave it the way that we had it here, because what this means is that if for whatever reason we wanted to add more information into this thing, like, I don't know, favorites or something like that, and it was a list of strings, right? And then these strings here matched up with the IDs associated with which ones are favorited, you know, okay, we could do that. So I'm gonna actually leave it at this structure because I want to give us that flexibility if we want to and not have to worry about, you know, changing everything in the future. So exactly what we've done here, we've created the attractions response, which has all of our attractions in it. So we just need to modify the way that we parse this data here. So instead of a type adapter, we're actually just going to set the adapter to be the attractions response class. And oh yeah, okay, that's because we've defined this. So it's going to be an attractions response, and then we're just going to end up saying attractions. Let me just change this to be a list and everything's fine. Yeah, okay. So we've now told the adapter that we're expecting something that exists like a pattern that exists like this response, which is going to be a list of these attractions, and here's the description of the attractions there themselves. So I guess good to know the parameterized types exist and you can do it that way. But this is a bit more normal in the sense that you kind of will end up parsing like the object entirely. So just a little bit of a syntax error. And yeah, this is super weird. So it's working, except the images are not being loaded. I've seen this before, to be honest. And it just has something weird to do. It might be the emulator, it might be the type of, where is this thing? Here. Something weird where we just have to uninstall the application and reinstall it. That really shouldn't be the case, to be honest. I think it has something to do with the way the emulator is set up and stuff like that. But perfect. You can see that it actually takes a little bit of time to load in and whatnot, but at this point you can see that our image here, or our data here, in this attractions file is now successfully being parsed, is now successfully being translated from this into essentially this. So yeah, you can see things as they load in and whatnot, and yeah, you know, I picked some pretty legit pictures from Google, but yeah, no, there's no doubt that this is just a beautiful country, a beautiful place, and you can actually see when I click sometimes this little ripple happen, and that is a little hack here in your view holder or in any view. If you set the background to this attribute that kind of comes with the system, selectable item background, it actually will draw this little like ripple for you. There are certain material things that'll just do that for you on your behalf, but you know, you can kind of do this to views that don't traditionally do that. So wonderful. You know, we could benefit from a little bit of a separation. It kind of just seems like one weird scrolling list and there's no item separation. But we can see here that this data is 100% true, meaning Sally, right here is the title, the image URL is this. We don't have the description up there, but the months to visit here is June to September, which you can see comes up here. And then the next one, Zagreb, has months to visit set as all year, and it works here. So this is starting to look a little bit more professional, especially under the hood. You know, it's not like we were just creating a list out of thin air. We're now parsing a list of data, a properly formed piece of information. And if we were to just very quickly, you know, modify this file by basically duplicating it, the data will be duplicated as well, because everything that we've built has a reactive sense to it, right? It's a list, so it's able to kind of just grow as much as you need it to. Things that are being recycled are able to just be recycled, and the different elements in the list have their own data associated with them, and they get presented on screen. And if you see, here we are at Granite National Park, and if we scroll up again, there's Granite National Park from the beginning of it, right? So because we've duplicated this list here. So this is a super powerful thing to know how to do, mainly because you can test things without needing an API, a backend resource. You can do things without having all the components of the system built out for you. And specifically, you can, when there is an endpoint that you can hit and it provides the exact same data and structure that this provides, you don't have to change any of your code. You just need to change where the data is coming from. But the parsing is going to work the same. The data is going to remain the same. So this screen here doesn't care where it gets the data from. It doesn't care if it's getting JSON that's embedded in the project, or getting JSON that's sitting in Firebase, or getting JSON that's sitting in or generated from a server that gets sent to you. So we can kind of separate different things in our app and say, okay, there's only certain things that each area of the app should focus on, and when each area does those things appropriately or does those things properly, the combined solution is a functioning application that is not off to a bad start. Yeah, we could do a little bit on the UI front here for sure to kind of add to it, and at the very least we can set the item decoration. There it is, divider item decoration. What? Oh. Well, actually, the context we can use require activity, and then the orientation is segway view vertical. Yeah, there you go. So we have a small item decoration in between these items now, so you can actually see that one ends and the other one picks up. Yeah, we could probably do a little bit better job of this, and we'll eventually clean up this UI and stuff like that. But just to start, this is good. This is exactly what I wanted to have happen. We're loading images dynamically. We're parsing data from a JSON file on board, and we're presenting this information in a reasonable way, right? So now we can actually start to maybe navigate once you go to the next screen or click on things and stuff like that. So there's a little bit going on in this episode. I'm sorry to go back and forth, especially around the Moshi stuff. Whenever it's there's always maybe a little bit of a struggle when you first import things to get things set up, but now that we know, okay, this is how we need to parse things, and we have our Moshi instance set up and this kind of stuff, we will be good, moving forward. So actually I'm going to make this private, so if we ever need to use it again, we have it set up. We don't need to modify it and continue to do things. We'll continue to duplicate our code here. So yep, the video is getting a little long, so I'm going to cut it here. Thank you so much for tuning in, sticking with me. Happy to finally get something on screen for you guys here. And now we're kind of back to where we were in a previous season, but we're going to go ahead and continue learning about how to really interact with the navigation components through that Jetpack library that I've been hyping up, and we will we'll tackle that in the coming videos. So thanks so much, and I will see you in there.